Who out there has been affected by this affordable housing crisis right now? Do you know anybody? Think about your local community. How's the rental prices going? This is the first time, I think, since I've been alive where there has been a unique situation going on in the housing market. And it is people can't afford to rent and they can't afford to buy. How do you think that happened? How do you think that happened? One of the things I want to bring to your attention, a couple of things actually today, that you may not realize is the government controls about 70% of our mortgages here in the United States. Let that sink in for just a minute. The government, through Freddie Mae, Fannie Mac, and Treasury, and all of that stuff, controls about 70% of all of our mortgages. To me, that is incredibly dangerous. Another really dangerous aspect is, obviously, they control our interest rates. Think about that. Okay? They control the interest rates, they control the banks, the financial institutions on what they can charge. And I don't know about you, but property taxes and insurance and all that stuff all across America has been on the rise, and it is absolutely just strangulating our families. I know I shared with y'all a couple of years ago that I did not ever have any kind of claims on my house, and my insurance went up drastically. And people said, oh, you mean it went up like $900 for the year? No, I mean it went up like $900 per month. Yeah, that's crazy, right? When you are paying as much for your insurance as you were paying for your mortgage, Houston, there's a problem. Okay? So that's the first couple of things that I want to share with you. Now, how this all ties in is there is big conglomerates going around buying up huge chunks of real estate. And I just recently learned of one about outside my little hometown in Light, Arkansas. About 3,000 acres. And unsuspecting to many people who actually bought that property, well, families probably don't care. They just wanted to sell it. And sometimes you don't pay attention to who's actually buying up your stuff. But if you go and dig a little deeper and see who those people are and see the umbrella companies, you might be surprised. So, here's how some of the monopolies are working right now. If you wonder how all of a sudden all of an industry seems to be, their prices, inflationary, going up crazy almost overnight, what you may not realize is the same thing is happening in like the heating and air conditioning industry and the plumbing industry. Let's take the heating and air conditioning industry. What has happened? Good morning. What is happening in the heating and air conditioning is there is a conglomerate company going around and buying up all of these mom and pop heating and AC companies. They're paying them to keep their branding, to keep everything looking the same, so that customers are none the wiser. They still think that mom and pop owns that business, right? So I'm going to use elderly because I got my mom on my mind. So let's just say Mrs. Smith down the road, elderly, and her AC goes out. And she calls the heating and air conditioning company. Good morning. She calls the heating and air conditioning company to come out. And they tell her she needs a brand new system. And it's going to cost X amount of dollars. Of course, it's a crazy amount of money. And she can't afford it. And they're like, well, we understand that. We understand that. But by all means, go check around and see what other people are charging. And so she does. And what she finds out is the quotes are about the same. But what she doesn't understand is that same company, good morning, has went around and they have bought up all of these shops, and all the computers and all the quotes and all that stuff is tied to the same infrastructure. And so of course they're going to be telling the little old lady the same price points. So she tells them again that she can't afford that new heating and AC unit. And they're like, oh, that's okay, no worries, we got you. We'll let you finance it. They don't give her a truth in lending disclosure like they're supposed to. And so she's like, oh, I don't know if I can make that payment or not, but I guess I'll try. And so she signs the dotted line. And y'all, this is just how fast this can happen. She signs the dotted line, a couple of months goes by, and times get tough, and she has to buy some medicine, and so she cannot make her payment to the heating and air conditioning finance company. And what she don't know is there's a little clause in there that says, when you don't make that, we now have a lien against your house and we can take your property. Y'all, this is real, this is going on. Same type of things is going on now in the plumbing industry. Y'all are not paying attention. Y'all are listening to all the other noise and all that junk that's going around out there, and you're not paying attention to what's going on right here in front of you. So there are conglomerates that are going around and buying up all these houses. And so when they do that, what do you think? Good morning. What do you think is happening, or what can happen if a conglomerate comes in and buys up all of the rental properties, all of the homes for sale in your community? What could happen overnight? They can totally control the rental market in your community, right? Think about that. Think about your own community and how they could come in there and one fell swoop and buy up all that property, and they control it. They have it. So supply and demand. Everybody needs affordable housing. Okay? This is some food for thought. Seriously. Think about it. Now, let's revert back to my new program, Brick by Brick. Bank of America. Bank of America's households. Bank of you and me. Y'all remember playing that game Monopoly? You went around the board and you could buy as much property as you could afford, but the bank is the one that held all the money, right? Good morning. The bank is the one that held all that money. So if you don't have what? 3 things. I've been harping on y'all. What do you need? Cash, credit, connections. If you don't have any of those, you're going to be out of luck. The bank's not going to give you no money. So there's about 4,500 banks in the United States. There's about 128 million households. What if, all of a sudden, we turn the tables on the financial institutions and the government and the banks, and we become the bank? Y'all, we're putting our money in these banks, and they're the ones that's smiling all the way to the bank, making all that money. We need to collaborate. We need to band together, brick by brick, and we need to go out like a vengeance, and we need to be buying up our own properties and help our own people and prevent this catastrophe that I think is coming down the pike over the next little bit in this housing market. There's no shortage. They seem to act like there's a shortage, but when the Census Bureau went around, there was tons, and I do mean tons, of properties that was sitting vacant, that was abandoned. There is a ton of multifamily housing, like apartments and things like that. There's a ton of those that they're expected to hit the foreclosure market here pretty soon. So there's going to be lots and lots of opportunity out there. Oh, this is so pretty. I'm going to turn this around and let y'all see. Isn't that pretty? Good morning. So there's a ton of opportunity, which is why every fall, same time, September, I start a new cohort And I want to help as many people as possible get involved. And again, many of you think that you don't have the cash credit connections that it's going to take. But this is brick by brick, fractionally funding. They do it with crypto. Why can you not do it with real estate, right? Sure. Think about a Bitcoin. You can't afford one Bitcoin because it's too expensive. But you can buy a fractional piece of a Bitcoin. Well, you can do the same thing with a brick, with a house. You can buy it brick by brick. You don't have enough for a brick, what can you do? You can buy a fraction of a brick. Get with your friends, family, buy a fraction of a brick. We talked yesterday about the average being about 15 to 25,000 bricks for a 2,000 square foot house. By the time you buy it, pay closing cost, furnish it, have emergency reserves in the bank and all of that stuff properly so that you can get it on the market, you're looking at about 20, 25, sometimes 30, but usually 20, 25 bucks per brick. There's no reason why in the world that every single household in America, that's 128.3, I think, 128.3 million households. If there's only 4,000 banks supporting that many people, just think what we could do. Just think what we could do. We need to become the bank, y'all. We need to go across America, and we need to corner the market, and we need to buy real estate, and we need to provide affordable housing for our people. This 7% junk has got to go, right? 7% for a mortgage, people can't afford that. Now, I remember back in the day, I once paid 10% for a house, and we was able to do it. But the cost of housing was, that house was probably about $30,000. So yes, we could afford it based on our wage. But we can't do that right now with cost of housing being so crazy. Our property taxes are crazy. Our insurance is crazy. And if you think about it, what does that seem like to you? Doesn't it seem like they're all in cahoots? And they don't want us to be able to afford to buy our house. Think about that. That's what some other countries have done, and they've done it successfully. And there was an article that I read that it said that pretty soon our people are going to be nothing but renters, and they're going to enjoy it. They're going to enjoy it. They don't want to be buyers. Well, that machine has already started working. And you can see it in your community. I can see it in mine. And I'm not talking about just apartment complexes. I'm talking about houses. Single family houses that young families will never be able to own a piece of the American dream. And I think that's sad. Not everybody wants to own a home. I understand that. But that is one of the primary pieces that most people think of when they think about the American dream, is having their own home, a place they can call home. And when you're paying exorbitant property taxes and exorbitant insurance, it's like you never own that home. Who actually owns it? You're paying property taxes to your local government and making the insurance companies rich. I looked at my insurance policy not very long ago again, and I was just shocked. Even though my house has never, ever, ever, not saying it won't, but never been hit by a hurricane or flood, the hurricane portion of that is about 92% of my premium, which is absolutely ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous. So I'm thinking about dropping the hurricane off my house. Yeah, because then I could be able to more affordably do some other things. I was thinking, why not drop that coverage and just invest that money for in the event that something did happen and a hurricane did come in and happen to wipe me out, what would I be able to do? Because otherwise, every month, I'm like throwing that money down the drain. Now, I'm not saying don't have insurance coverage. That's not what I'm saying at all, because you could have fires and all different kinds of stuff. But I'm just saying, look at your risk, see how you can minimize them. It's kind of like when we put our kids in a vehicle to drive, and it's gotten so expensive that people don't realize that what they should probably be doing is getting their kids a cheap car, paying for it, and only having liability insurance on it. It's going to save them a ton of money. Plus, more than likely, the kid's going to have an accident or something like that and bust it up anyways. So why lose all that money? Cars are depreciating assets, not appreciating assets. And we need to be teaching those kids anyways about the difference in that. So anyways, again, I just wanted to hop on here today and talk about this affordable housing crisis and how that there is a way that you and me and everybody else can collaborate and get together on a platform and go around and corner the market. And instead of those huge corporations who have bad intentions, or whatever you want to call those, I'd like to help be part of why and how our housing actually did become more affordable. Like to make sure that all of our families can have a nice, safe place to call home if they wanted to. So again, this is Nancy Gaskins, sowing seeds of hope and financial opportunity in communities around the globe. I invite you to join me again. September, we don't do this all year long. I try and do this once or twice a year. In September, this is the time where everybody registers, and I know how many people is going to be involved. And our goal is to buy at least one property a month, depending on how much cash flow we have available, obviously. But anyway, that's kind of what our goal is right now. So y'all have a fabulous day. It is a beautiful day in paradise. A little bit warmer today. The last couple of days it's felt like fall, but today it's beautiful, but it's a little warm. So talk to y'all soon. Join me on my upcoming webinar on Tuesday at 6 p.m. Central Time.